allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll start by calling the roll. Mr. Bates? Here. Mr. Preston? Here. Mr. Dieterle? Here. Mr. Eyebold? Here. And Mr. Innocenzi? Here. Thank you. Just want to welcome everyone to Sunnybrook Preserve. It's a park that we were fortunate to work with Janet and Peter Rue with, the former property owners. Janet and Peter used to live up off of 322 and were quite passionate about this land. They were in the hosta growing business. They grew a lot of different hostas and cultivars, but if some of us on staff had the privilege of meeting Janet and Peter, and they were definitely interesting folks. Mr. Rue had a phenomenal collection of Indian artifacts, so they were passionate about the land, passionate about nature, passionate about parks and recreation. So we're definitely fortunate to have this piece of property, about 80 acres here, mature forest, a beautiful stream that runs through it that we'll be doing a stream restoration on. So encourage you after the meeting to get out and hike Sunnybrook Preserve if you have the time. With that, I want to introduce three new board members. To my left, starting with Mr. Dennis Eyebold. And then I'm moving on down to Mario Innocenzi. So Mario is from Clarendon, Dennis is from Munson, and Bill Dieterle, all the way at the end, lives out on Bundiesburg Road in Middlefield Township. So welcome, gentlemen. It is good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will jump right in with the approval of the agenda and addendum items. Entertain a motion. Thank you. Go ahead and vote. Mr. Bates?
Yes.
Mr. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterle?
Yes.
Mr. Eyebold?
Yes.
And Mr. Innocenzi?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve or amend the meeting minutes from June 16, 2020. Entertain a motion, bring it to the floor.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, any comments on the meeting minutes from June 16?
I have a question on page 5.
Okay.
I think it was, maybe the paragraph might have got cut off on the bottom there on the sunshine law compliance. Should there be some additional words after Geauga Park? On the bottom.
Yeah, I see it. See that happen?
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Oh, there's just one other thing, page 6.
No, on page 5.
I know, but then the page, after page 5.
I don't have a page 6.
Oh, okay. This is all in the buzz. You want to see that?
Read that.
Yeah.
District Board of Commissioner was in compliance with Ohio sunshine laws, respectfully submitted, and then John Orr's signature, and then a space for your signature.
Thank you for pointing that out. Howard, any other questions, comments?
John, can I just ask if everybody at the front would talk loud, because the people on this side are hearing.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right, if nothing else, we'll go ahead and call the vote to approve the meeting minutes from June 16th. Mr. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. Bates?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterle?
Yes.
Mr. Eyebold?
Yes.
And Mr. Innocenzi?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the presentation of the financial statement. For those of you that are new to the board, we usually don't read these verbatim. It starts at the top with the general fund beginning balance on June 1st, 2020, ends at the bottom with the closing balance on June 30th, 2020. So we have the general fund, and we have the land improvement fund. The land improvement fund is the fund that we spend from for our capital improvements. Land acquisitions have historically come out of the land improvement fund. We have the retirement reserve account, a park capital reserve account. That was an account that was set up back in, I believe, 2016. It was an account dedicated to specific projects. Those projects were the construction of Holbrook Hollows, the construction of Clarendon Woodlands, the paving of Maple Islands Trail South, so on and so forth. And then we have a canine fund. The canine fund has donated monies in to our canine units with our ranger department and money expended there. So are there any questions on the monthly financial statement? Okay, hearing none, it will be entered into the record in the permanent minutes of the Board of Park Commissioners. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is a presentation of vouchers, money spent in the month of June. Entertain a motion to bring it to the table for a pending vote.
So moved. Support.
Thank you. Any questions on the bills paid, the vouchers for the month of June? Going once, going twice. Okay. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote to approve the vouchers for the month of June. Mr. Bates?
Abstain.
Mr. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterly?
Yes.
Mr. Ibold?
Yes.
And Mr. Innocenzi?
Yes.
All right. We had a couple bills not paid from the month of May and June for Arms Trucking Company. As most of you know, Howard Bates owns Arms Trucking Company. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the vouchers, the bills paid for Arms Trucking for the month of May and the month of June. Get a motion?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Go ahead and let you know what those are. In the month of May, we purchased $915.75 for 601 type C limestone for an erosion repair. And in the month of June, we purchased aggregate for our trails in the amount of $437 at Headwaters Park, 16 cents to be exact. Aggregate for washout at Roaring Meadows and Westwoods in the amount of $1,909.25, and aggregate for washout at Sunnybrook Preserve, this part, in the amount of $944.56, totaling $3,209.97. So, gentlemen, that's what we'll be approving to pay the bills to Arms Trucking.
John, just a note, in the June vouchers, there was one voucher for Preston.
Okay.
Okay, which I think there was
Yeah, we can go ahead and handle those separately. Let's go ahead and approve the vouchers for Arms Trucking. Any questions on those? If not, we'll take a vote. Mr. Bates? Mr. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterly?
Yes.
Mr. Ibold?
Yes.
And Mr. Innocenzi?
Yes.
Thank you, Gloria. Everyone, this is Gloria Freno. She's our Geauga Park District Finance Manager. So do you have the amount associated with the Preston?
Right, it was $17.26 was their switch.
Okay.
So that's under vehicle equipment,
Okay.
service repair.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you for pointing that out. We will go ahead and handle that one separately. Can I have a motion to pay that bill for Preston?
Motion. Pay the bill.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on $17? If not, we'll go ahead and call the vote. Mr. Bates?
Yes.
Mr. Preston?
Abstain.
Okay, Mr. Dieterly?
Yes.
Mr. Ibold?
Yes.
And Mr. Innocenzi?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Moving on to new business. Planning and Operations update. I'd like to introduce our Director of Planning and Operations, Matt McHugh. Standing over there in the corner, Matt oversees, him and his department, they oversee our construction projects. In your board packet, we've listed our current construction projects and the contractor. So we are currently in the process of building our 26th park, Welton's Gorge, out in Burton Township. So that project is underway. Sunnybrook Preserve Stream Restoration, we've received some grant funding. There will be a stream restoration going on here. Staples Meadows, that is a more recently acquired piece of property just east of Chardon in Hamden Township. There's some large lake and water components there, and we'll be fixing the dam and impounding more water on that piece of property. And Last but not least, the Beaver Creek restoration. This is another grant-funded project that's been in the works for a number of years. So that's where we stand. Matt, you want to comment on any of our projects?
Welcome Forge is kind of moving along. The vault restroom was installed last week. This week we're moving more into some concrete work, some footage for the shelter. We're going to be doing some flush curving for the entry drive and everything. So that's kind of progressing on schedule. And then Sunnybrook Preserve, we're kind of working through permitting with the Army Corps of Engineers right now, and actually some surveying field work down in the stream. The other